tomorrow morning when we get here, we'll go through the sort of exercises and things that we're going to do to reinforce some of the stuff we've talked about tonight. But I'd just like to just go through 2 or 3 slides now, if I may, just to sort of, again, to emphasize what we've been talking about. This is my albacore, which is a wonderful, hasn't got a spinnaker sadly, super boat designed by a fellow called Upper Fox years ago. And the purpose of this photograph is that, apart from, yet again, you see me sheltering behind my crew, which is... The purpose of this photograph is to show the true, how much we as sailors need to bend the air around our sails. Look at the difference between the angle of attack, the front of this jib, look at the angle that wind is hitting that jib, and just look how it's exiting, leaving the mainsail. It's pretty much, it's not far off 90 degrees, you know. Now that's a hell of a curve, a hell of an arc for us to actually expect the wind to bend round, isn't it? And because it's going to bend round that sort of curve, unless we're careful, along the line it's going to just say, hey, I'm not going to bother with this. I'm either going to backwind at the front or just stall the back edge. Yes? Okay, so here's the angle that the jib is coming in. The wind has got to go round that curve there, at the angle that my arm is at the moment. Now look at the back. So we're, yes, a hell of a curve. It's going round a great big arc. And, sorry? Around the sails. Also, what the sails are doing is they're deflecting the air round a big curve. As the air is deflected round that curve, it creates speed as it goes through this gap between the jib and the main. Stefan, let's have the next picture. No, next one. Right. This is it from above. Here's the angle that the air is coming in at this angle here. Here it's leaving at this angle here. As it does, the front of the jib and the top of the main are responsible for how close we can point into wind. We will see tomorrow that if you can't point into wind, if you can't point as close as your competitors, if you have to sail further, then it's hard because there's no point really being out there, because, you know, it's frustrating. So we have to organize the angle of attack so that the air can easily go around those curves. As we saw on several boats tonight, we control that angle of attack by the amount of retention we put in to stop the wire sagging under the horrible wind that's hitting it. But also we saw a lot how altering the tension on the jib sheet made such an enormous difference, not only to the back of the sail, but also to the front of the sail. Yes? And that is why, when we're talking about jib sheeting, what we're actually saying is get it so it's about right, so that from the fairlead to the clew, if you were to extend that line forward, it would meet the middle of the luff, the actual sail luff, at just below half height, and that's good enough. That's your decimal, that's your whole number. And the decimal place adjustment comes from the minute alterations that the crew does to the sheet tension. We saw the ratio of the back edge of the sail at spreader height move 5 times for every unit we ease the sheet or tension the sheet. Every unit we move the sheet, the back of the sail, it's a colossal amount. But we also saw, I hope, that by doing that, we altered the front of the sail, because as we eased the sheet, not only did the back of the sail goes out, but the front leeward side of the sail goes out. Now we can use that sheet tension as our guide as to how much we're going to put, how much tension to put on. remember the rule. If we've got the right amount of sheet tension, all three telltales on the windward side will collapse at the same time, doing their little circly jobs. If the top telltale circles first, the leech is too slack and you need to pull the jib in, the sheet in. How much? The tiniest of tiny amounts because of that ratio of 5:1. If the bottom telltale goes first, that means that the leech is too tight and so the sheet has got to be eased. How much? The tiniest of tiny amounts because of that 5:1 ratio. Yes? Look at the slot. These lines represent air. The closer the lines are together, the more dense the air. As air goes through this gap between the back windward part of the jib and the leeward front of the main, the air is squeezed. As it's squeezed, it speeds up. As it speeds up, it becomes less dense, and it makes the difference between the pressure gradient on the windward side of the mainsail and the leeward side of the mainsail much greater. It makes the mainsail much more efficient in this area here. Because of that, getting the slot right is our passport to windward speed. And if the sail excessively backwinds in medium conditions, then we're closing the slot off too much. In a breeze, and we'll talk about this later, quite often it's quite a good idea to backwind because that's reducing the amount of sail area. And, you know, we don't want to heel over and things. Look what a disaster here. Why should the air cling to those these windward going curves? Why should it bend around this great big arc here? And can you see, I hope, that it's breaking off? Now, you guys, certainly sailing on a lake like this, will be used to variable wind conditions. Sometimes there are windy bits, sometimes there are light bits, and so on. I don't know about you, but in the variable bits, in the strong bits, the boat feels terrific. You know, it really powering through the waves, then suddenly you get to a lighter bit. In my neck of the woods, sailing on the Norfolk Broads, what would that be? Weed, wouldn't it? Yeah. We sailed into some weed, but here, do you get weed here?
37 meters deep.
Oh, right, okay. So unless you capsize, the answer is no. Right. What's actually happened is because the wind has got less, because the wind strength has dropped, the leech of the sail has just gone boing to windward. The air has said, oh, blow that for luck. I'm not going to curve around those curves. So right when you wanted a maximum width sail, you've reduced the width of the sail because it's broken off. And look here, it's broken off. Next one, please.
Just a moment.
Sorry.
What would you suggest we are doing here? Lay it out a little?
Perfect. I was going to come to that, but no, let's deal with it now. If the boat suddenly and horribly feels awful, the solution is easy. Just let the sail go out until the sail backwinds, and then you can gently bring it in. I have a motto: if in doubt, let it out. If in doubt, let it out. Good. Next one. Next one. This is what we'll be concentrating a lot on tomorrow. It's no use having the most efficient rig if you're presenting to the water an inefficient hull. We are going to spend ages tomorrow looking at how we as sailors will recognize that our boats are going as fast as possible. Look at the size of the wash here. This is a little cadet, brilliant little boat. All we need to do is to monitor the size of what the wash looks like. What's a flat out, when the boat's planing, what does the wake look like when we're...
Absolutely flat.
Billiard table smooth, isn't it? And yet 20, 30, 40 meters behind the transom, there's a sort of rooster tail, isn't there? You know, where the side washes meet. Do you know what that rooster tail is? It's the water saying, bugger it, I've missed the transom, so I'm going to create turbulence here. We can't always plane. Sadly, we can't always plane, but we can take that motto of the smoother the wash, the flatter the wake, the faster the boat is going. Where do you think the worst problem is for this? And it's certainly a problem for those of us where there's more of us than there should be.
change that. Oh, sorry.
Right. There, but go back to that one. You've got it. No. Where is that? That one of the Wayfarer. That one. I'm ever so sorry about this picture, folks. I'm glad it's blurred. It's a jolly good job it's blurred. It's an appalling picture. Overweight helmsman sitting to leeward, leaning lazily on the boom, causing the boat to heel over. I bet if that guy was to let go of his tiller, the boat would luff up, because that's an asymmetric wash. We must have the boat upright, and it's on the run if we're going to make a cock up. If we're going to make a mistake, if we're going to ruin things, it will be the run where it happens first. The boat moving with the wind, the tired wind trying to get over the sails. Of course it's going to be.
But why is he number one then?
One lap behind.
Thank you. He's about to be lapped, isn't he, Jasper?
It's the last boat, it's the other one catching up.
Furesø.
If I had a picture taken of a boat like that, how could I go home and show it to my grandma and put it on the mantelpiece? I just couldn't, could I?
We tried it in Canada.
It's probably in Canada, I
We
think.
had a split center board.
Ah.
We were lapped by the old.
Yeah, we tried it. The overhaul.
If the boat isn't upright, if water is not going from front to back around the same sort of curves, you will have a slow Wayfarer. So how on earth do we decide whether the boat's upright or not? Do we look? Do we put, dangle bits of string with weights on the bottom to see if they're, ever so easy. It's the easiest thing in the world. All you need to do is just let your grip go on the tiller extension. If the wash is symmetrical, if the water is going round the right-hand side and the left-hand side round the same sort of curves, the tiller will stay in the center of the boat. If the tiller moves to one side or the other, then the boat is not making a symmetrical wash. The tiller will always move to the area that the problem is. So if the tiller moves to leeward, the boat's heeling to leeward. Just like this. What's actually happening as it heels to leeward? It's building up a wave here. Tiny wave in this case, but it's still a wave. Well, the effect of that wave, what does it do? Is it tries to push the bow into wind. How does the guy avoid that? He has to steer with a tiller. Every time you move the tiller 75 millimeters, 7.5 centimeters away from the center line, nothing, is it? That's hardly anything. You're creating the same sort of drag that you would do if you bunged your arm in the water. Clearly, we wouldn't want to do that because that's slow. So we use, the windsurfers years ago threw the rudders away because they can't be bothered with them. And we should be like that, and there will be times when we will be doing exercises where we have to keep the boat upright.
So what would you recommend here?
For him,
Yeah,
get the boat
for
upright.
For the crew to hike a little more?
No, the crew to sit in. The helm to sit in.
The helm set.
Yeah. It just doesn't it look slovenly? It doesn't look right, does it? Yeah. Yeah. Right, next one. And we're not going to talk tomorrow. Sorry, sir.
Should we take the slide we saw here?
Yeah.
You started here.
Yeah.
You didn't finish.
Yeah. Smooth wash.
Solution.
Smooth wash.
Move forward.
Well, she's quite a big girl, isn't she? She should move. She should move much further forward. Yeah.
Yes. Use the tiller extension.
Yeah. Well, yes. We will be coming alongside in motorboats and things tomorrow and suggest what we're trying to do is to make the wash as small as possible, as smooth as possible. And then we're going to suggest that people move around. What's it feel like when you sit here? Oh, gee whiz, look at the size of those bubbles. That's got to be turbulence, that's got to be slow. What about if we nibble forward a little bit? That looks much, much better. Yes? What happens if I ease my grip on the tiller? I'm not saying you need to do it an awful lot of the grip on the tiller. What am I talking about? 20, 30,000 times a leg, something like that. not very often, but you must make sure the boat's upright. If it's not, you'll have a picture taken which you can't show your grandma. Yeah. Next one. This is a fireball where clearly this is a fireball where clearly the guy didn't anticipate the gust coming. He didn't see this extra strength of this glob of wind hurtling towards that poor little defenseless boat. The other thing that we'll be working on tomorrow is looking ahead to see what's about to come. So that the only reason that Simon and I will want to know whether you're in a gust, with wind, or a lull without any wind, is the fact you're going faster or slower. We do not want to see the boat heel. I mean, just look at the true horror of this. The rudder's cavitating, which a Wayfarer does beautifully. Yeah, can he bear away? Of course he can't bear away, because look, he's sucking up great globs of... And when was a boom end designed to plane for? Well, what do you think? I'm glad that we can't see the crew's head. What do you think he's thinking? Oh, God, will I get as far as the insignia today, or will it be the...
I think this is vinegar also.
Yeah. Right, next one. Next one. We're not going to talk about pumping tomorrow, are we, folks? Because that helm is just on the point of pumping, isn't he? Can he pump? Could he, if he were to pump at that stage, could he actually... Apparently, we're allowed one pump per wave or gust.
There is a one wave just coming. So
Look at the wash. Look at the wash. Is he already surfing? Is he already planing? Yes. Yeah. Because the wash is detached, isn't it? It's smooth. The rule actually says, just very quickly, the rule says you can pump once per wave or once per gust in order to create a plane or a surf. If you're already planing, in other words, you can't do it. Yeah. So, mind you, I think if you're on your way to pumping Wayfarers a lot, you're on your way to a hernia, aren't you? So, yeah. Next one. Look at that, what a dreadful picture. This is my winter club, surrounded by trees. It's a Wayfarer. Of course it's a Wayfarer, because it's got a W on the sail. But just look at the effect of heeling on the length of the boat. Not only is it slow because you have to use the rudder, but it's a slower boat. And a slower boat must therefore go slower, mustn't it? Sorry, a shorter boat rather, must therefore go slower. So we've seen heel boats, you have to use the tiller. Heel boats are actually shorter. Next one. This is why Simon is such a good crew. See him go, he's going to protect me from that. Next one. Here's a guy. Do you know Neil Collingridge? Yeah. He didn't. And why? I would have thought using the rudder is pushing the tiller away like that is a little bit late, wouldn't you? But again, he didn't look behind to see what monster gust was coming. And knowing Neil, pardon? Yeah. Yes, of course. The crew at this time, priority number one, of course, is to sheet the jib, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah. And this cadet, how very interesting is that? As they just gaily sail past without a hint of worry. The whole secret is looking ahead to see what's about to come, and we're going to talk a lot about that in. Yeah. Heartleys are not supposed to nosedive, are they? Neil managed it. Next one. Next one. Next one. This is where I grew up. This is Grimsby Docks. We didn't go out for a casual sail because, I mean, what would you look at that? That's scenically challenged. You know, it's not very pretty, is it? But look here. And you can see me in my usual non-sitting out mode. But can you see these gusts here? Yeah. We know a gust is going to come. We know there's an extra wind of an increase going to be coming by looking at the state of the water that's coming towards us. The blacker the blacker the water, the more the ripples, the stronger the gust. Yeah. there is no excuse for heeling over if we spot what's about to come. Right, next one. And of course in light winds, there's hardly any, this is when getting the air off the back edge of the sail is so important. Next one. Are we going the right way? Are you going forwards or backwards? Yeah. I think, yeah, keep going. You're going backwards. We need to click to the run. Go as fast as you like. Yeah, that's it. Yep. Simon on that wave. Yeah, good. Right, go back. Right, this is where we need to concentrate. Can we see, I hope, that a two-sail boat, in this which is what a Wayfarer is, look at the difference in, this is dead important, this. Look at the difference in turbulence from the back of the mainsail. Compare that with that. Can you see the difference? But why am I talking about a single sail boat? I'm talking about a single sail boat because the top of a Wayfarer sail above the jib is in fact a single sail boat, isn't it? A mainsail is only a mainsail if it's got a jib in front of it. If it hasn't, it's got to be sheeted like your lasers, like your Oppie and all that lot. And this is the reason, and I know Stefan's going to look at it in a minute, this is the reason I believe that we have to sail with twist. The bottom of the sail can come in. Why can the bottom of the sail come in? Because you've got the jet blast of the air through the slot. Here, this poor old top of the sail hasn't got that jet blast. It hasn't got air being forced around the back side of it. So therefore, the back edge has to be eased away. Just one more, Stefan, and we're going to a couple more on the run.
You mean the leech has to open?
The leech has to open, yes.
Can we put in questions now, or?
Sorry?
Can we put in questions now, or?
Oh, yeah, all the time. Golly, me.
Normally we set up the Wayfarers for. If in rough conditions, we set up the twist, and the water's flat, we set it in without twist.
Right. And why is that different? All you do...
The difference is that the mast is moving a lot. So
right.
then you will use more twist in the sails, but the mast is moving a lot.
Right. One of the things I try and do is never dictate to the sails. I react to what they tell me. Are the telltale setting? Is the front backing? I can deal with all that lot. We'll cover it again tomorrow. But in this case here, I would suggest that the telltales, the leech telltales, are actually stalled and they'd be going around the back edge there. They'd be going around the leech. Well, certainly, probably the bottom ones would be okay in this, but the top one above the jib would not be setting. If we can get the top telltale to set, and this would be my answer to your question, if we can get the top telltale to stream, air must be jet propulsioning off the back. Because it's jet propulsioning off the back, we haven't got the turbulence and the stalling of that. Yes? Next picture. Right, stop there. We're talking about this area here, and this is the area we look at. Do you remember on the jib, we're looking at all three telltales? I don't bother with that on the mainsail. All I do is I look at the mainsail here, and I use the rule, is the sail backwinding in the number panel, is air hitting the leeward side, then that means that I've got too little leech tension, too little downward load. Is it backwinding here? Is air hitting there? Yes, then I need to tension the back bottom corner by putting the kicker on or the main sheet. Is it not backwinding there? No, then I want to ease it. My view is that a sail is at its most efficient when it's bending the air round the least amount possible. So we're most efficient just when we're on the point of backwinding in this position, just here.
But if you're looking
it at the boom height,
Yep.
it's going upwards.
Yep.
And I would say that this is very open here.
Is it backwinding?
No, it's not backing with the here.
Right,
but
so-
it looks very open.
Yep. Is it, Stefan, is it backwinding? If the answer was yes, then it would be too open. Is it not backwinding? No, then it's probably too tight. Yeah.
So what you're saying is,
Do you hear that? That's exactly what I'm looking at it. Is air hitting the leeward side? Yes, then I need to load the back bottom corner and tension the leech. Is it not backwinding? Doesn't matter what height the boom is. Ease the kicker, ease the main sheet to get the boom to go up a bit to open that leech out.
why the kicker? Why not the driver?
Perfect.
I don't know it.
How far away from the center line? I would come to you. Sorry. How far away from the center line is the back of the boom? Yeah. It's a long way out, isn't it? The rule is that with the boom into the center line, like we had at the Europeans, lots of times at the Europeans, the leech tension, the downward load, comes from the amount of tweaking we do on the main sheet. As soon as the boom's away from the center line, we haven't got the luxury of the main sheet to do the loading, so it has to go, the vertical load has to come from the kicking strap. Boom into the center, you can use the main sheet. Boom away from the center line, we have to use the kicking strap. And you can see that, just look at the angle, you know, that there's no way that the main sheet would put enough load onto that.
I suppose the main purpose of the bridle is that you can get the boom aligned with your center line and still adjust the height of the boom.
Is that about heeling over? Yes. Why is it heeling over? Because the helm's not sitting out. Yes, but that's what you're thinking, isn't it? Yeah. My son Sam is sitting out. He's doing his stuff. I'm not doing my stuff. If I were to sheet the main in and ask the air to bend round an extra curve, what would happen to that angle of heel? It would more heel. And more heel is slow. So what? Yeah. So if the boat heels over, asymmetric. Look at this wash here. It hasn't got much of a heel over, and yet look how much turbulence we're creating on the leeward side. I mean, the man who took this picture.
So the right thing would be that you hike out and you tighten your seat.
Correct. No, perfect answer. If the helm wasn't lazy, he could sheet in a bit.
Yeah.
But because he's like he is, and he's lumbered with him being him.
Did you
Yeah.
win the World Championship or?
This is my club, winter club, surrounded by trees. I was lucky to get a gust, actually. I think what we're actually saying here, folks, I think if we think about this, is that we're not dictating to the rig. We're waiting for the sails to do something, and then we're reacting. The sail is backwind, do something, rather than do something and expect the sail to comply with what you've just decided. That would be my route, yes? Ease, by easing, to keep by easing, by getting the sail to go out and reducing the curvature that the air has to go round. Because I'm reducing the curvature that it has to go round, I'm reducing the heeling. As I ease the sail away from the center line, if I was to backwind here, then I would actually start to welly with a kicker. Just enough kicker to not backwind here. Does that, yeah? Does that cover you? You don't sound
I just don't understand why you wouldn't use the driver, because you can control them.
Right, what happens when the next lull comes along? If we have it so that the two blocks touch when the boom's in the center line, and because they're not touching, the boom has risen up a little bit. Therefore, I can't control the the leech on the bridle, so I've got to use the kicker. Yes. If I was block to block, the boom would come into the centre line and I would heel over, and then horror of horrors, I'd have to sit out. Well,
It seems to me like the bridle is very high.
yeah. We'll go through the height of the bridle tomorrow. Yep.
I've heard that some Wayfarer sailors have said that when a gust is coming and you can't control the heeling, go up into the wind just a little. What would you prefer?
Right. Feathering. Yeah. Pinching. The big snag with the Wayfarer is a big boat, isn't it? You can do it on flat water like this, but you try and do it on the Sunday of the Europeans last year with those big waves. If you try and luff up into the waves, you know, a Wayfarer moving, I don't know, 4 kilometers to windward and a wave moving downwind at 8 kilometers collision speed. Yeah. The secret with feathering, and it is just to, all I do is I ease my grip on the tiller extension, and then the boat will just nibble into wind. If Simon can actually notice that the bow has gone into wind, you know, significantly, if he noticed that there was quite a big movement, then I've done it too much. Why? Because I'm using the rudder as a brake. Yeah, just ease the grip, the boat nibbles up, we weather the storm, perhaps easing a little bit of the main sheet, and then as soon as the gust eases, then I can grab the tiller extension again and just, it's gentle swoops with feathering, a gentle ease up and a gentle bear away. We're not talking about the bow wandering more than, what are we talking, 300-400 mil, something like that, tiny amounts.
Would you be able to see it on the tailsail in front?
Again, if the front of the jib backwinds, think about it, you're actually reducing the area. So if you're very light, you just nibble up a little bit, backwind the front of the jib, reduce the sail area, you've reefed the sail, so therefore you can weather the storm, but the snag is, of course, then the speed comes off. Once the speed starts to come off, you've had it, and it certainly would come off in waves. Yep. It's feathering, I think, is more a thing for sailing here in flat water and sailing on Norfolk Broads in flat water than it would be, you know, Windigates tide, you know, out on the North Sea somewhere. Next one. Does that answer that? Yeah. I shall come sailing with you in the morning, and we'll sort this out.
Additional thing to that, it's not wise to do it in waves. What is then the trick of removing power?
Right. In a breeze in a Wayfarer, there is no such thing, in my view, in a lot of wind, than you just cannot have enough kicker. It's impossible to have enough kicker. What do we do, Simon, when it blows? Who pulls the kicker in? So Simon watches the gust coming, and the lazy old devil at the back. You know, I don't even have to do anything now. The kicker comes on, firms the leech really rock solid. So then all I've got to do is to ease the main away from the centre line. The middle of the mainsail backwinds, reefing the sail. So what are we doing? We're sailing on the front of the jib and the back of the main, so the boat is still balanced. It's still going in a straight line.
So you ease the main.
Ease the main, provided that, and only provided that, you can make that firm enough so it doesn't flap. If it flaps, you're pooped.
And what do you do with the conning in a gust?
If you have time, use
Well done. I do the jokes.
We have read your paper, so don't be so surprised.
I'm not a great fan of the cunning. On your lasers and your single-handed boats, perhaps yes, but the trouble with, and we'll demonstrate it in the morning, the trouble with putting lots of Cunningham on is that it drags the flow forwards, pulls the flow forward towards the mast, and it could do, if we're mega stupid, it could close the gap off between the jib and the main. I much prefer, and in my talk, what did I call them? Speed bumps. Little wrinkles coming away from the front. And if there's a cameraman about, use the Cunningham. Yeah. I think the Cunningham is the gadget of. That's right. Yes. It makes the sail look pretty, so you can put it on your mantelpiece. Picture of it on your mantelpiece. Oh, we're going the wrong way. Right. Right. Again in albacores, look how close the booms are to the centre line. I hope you haven't noticed a common theme about the sort of boats. The crew sitting out in the helm not. Whoever took these pictures, it's scandalous. Boom close to the centre line, lots of twist in the sail. How much twist? Is it backwinding at the junction at the top of the jib? If it is, tension it. If it's not, ease it out. Remember, the Wayfarer mainsail is an old-fashioned mainsail. It's got a long foot and a relatively short luff. Yep, so it's ever so easy to stall the back edge. We need to get to the...
Can I ask, there are two different things on those boats. There's a line here,
Yep.
there's not a line here.
That's because mine's on the other side. We have flyaway poles. Are you familiar with fly? Yeah, yeah. And that's the shock cord. I've since changed it to this side because I got fed up with this girl beating me. So clearly that was a reason. Flippy in her laser. Look how flat she's had to go make the sail. Lots and lots of creases. But look how far away it is from the centre line. If you haven't got a jib in front of it, the back edge has to be away from the centre line to reduce the curve the air has to go round.
So here at the single-handed single sail, it's closing. I mean, it's pointing backwards, the leak.
Yes.
I understood before that you wanted the top of the Wayfarer sail to open.
Yes. Let's go back to that one. And that's exactly what this girl's doing here. What she's actually doing is the boom's away from the centre line, so therefore what she's actually got to do is, because it's away from the centre line, she's actually, later she can use a bit of main sheet, but she's also using the kicker to firm the leech up. This opening up of the leech is only enough and ever only enough to have it just not backwind at the top of the jib. Is it backwind? Keep saying this. Now, we'll keep saying this. Is it backwinding where the top of the jib is? Yes, you need more downward load. Is it not backwinding? Then you need less downward load. Have it just on the point of going all the time. Next one. Next one. Right. This is the horror that we face every time that we go onto a run. Of course the run is slower. Of course it's slower because the very boat speed through the air is reducing the wind strength. But what this beautiful diagram shows is that the main reason we go slower on a run is because we halve the sail area. When we're beating and reaching, both sides of the sail were working. On the run, it's just purely pressure up the backside. Just because, look, certainly in the case of this goose wing jib here, with the jib pulled out to windward, there is no movement over that. But what the diagram beautifully shows is that even though there is very little movement or no movement on the leeward side of the sail, it's absolutely essential, it's vital that air escapes off the sail. This is one of the reasons for prebend. If we had a great ridge there, you know, a Himalayan mountain range, how could the air possibly get out? And just look how important it is for air to escape off the front. This is absolutely vital for a wayfarer. Why is it vital for a wayfarer? Because we've got a spinnaker here. On a run, air escaping off the front of the mainsail is pouring into the spinnaker. Just look how close the lines are here.
Would that mean that you should take in the boom a little bit more?
Right. Make sure we do the demonstration. If we bring the boom into the center line, it's horrible how much area we reduce, because we're pivoting around an arc. If you pull it in the smallest amount, you lose about 150 mil of exposed area.
Yeah. But on the other hand, you might get more of this air going out here, going this way.
If you sheet the main in to get pull the boom in that way, to get the air to escape from here, you would have to sail with a slacker leach. Yes? And the trouble with a slacker leach in a breeze, have you ever done that in a breeze? Capsize. Have you? As your helm swims back to the centerboard. Because
what Stefan means is that if you angle the main a bit, you could shovel a lot more.
yeah, but you're going to
but when you are going off wind, you cannot shovel anywhere because you're going 10 speed into wind.
and air must escape here as well. If air can't escape here,
But it sounds as if you would like as much air coming into the spinnaker.
yeah, but you've still got to have air escaping here, and if it's angled back, it's going to be harder. Let's go on to the next one. But so, folks, every time we go into battle, we should be taking that picture with us. And at the first hint that we're slowing down, we've got to think about, is air escaping from here? Is air escaping from here? Have I got the spinnaker around far enough? Yes?
Sorry, many folks are use they just don't go completely downwind. They wind up a little bit, sail along the distance.
Yes.
Do that in the Wayfarer.
There are wind shifts off wind just like there are to windward. Everybody agree with that?
Yeah.
Yep. If you dead run downwind, where this arrow is, yep, what happens if you get a 10-degree shift so that the wind comes from this angle here? You actually, if you think about it, you're covering the spinnaker, aren't you, with the mainsail? So what I like to do is to have the wind, yep, so that if the wind does shift, it goes aft. And by going aft, going directly astern, I'm not actually, covering the, yeah. So you're right. It's really hard to do a dead downwind run on a Wayfarer. The asymmetric boats, do you have asymmetrics here? 49ers, 29ers, all of that lot. 400s. It would be absolute death, wouldn't it, for an asymmetric boat to run dead downwind like that? Because the reason they zigzag downwind is because they're using both sides of the sail. Yep.
It depends on if they're planing or not.
Okay.
If they're not planing, they have to go down.
Okay. What you're saying is, because they've got to sail extra distance, they've got to go fast enough to make it worthwhile sailing the extra distance.
Can I just ask the purpose of the freeburn is to flatten the
One of the reasons, yes, is to let the air escape there. Yeah. A mainsail has got a positive round at the front. If the mast is not bending, and we have to put a certain amount of positive round to allow the mast to bend. But if the mast is not bending, it just sort of stays behind it's not ideal, it's not perfect, you have to put up with it. Again, like so many things in sailing, which is my least worst option. I need a bit of luff curve for a beat, so I've got to put up with a minor amount of inconvenience on a run. Stefan? Right. How much leech tension to put? All you need to do in the number panel on a Wayfarer is to look at what happens every time the wind increases just a little bit. Every time the wind increases, if the leech moves forward under the pressure of that extra wind, then what we're talking about is moving forward no more than 100 millimeters. The gust comes, the extra increase comes, the leech opens out under that extra wind. Again, if it's too much, you'll be doing that. Helms will be doing that because the crews, of course, you crews will be sitting on the centreboard laughing at us. Right, we'll go on to the last one. Nobody tries this in the Wayfarer, and I'd love to be strong enough, just like the lasers and things do. Is this boat, even though it's heeling to windward, is it making the minimum amount of drag? The answer is just look where the tiller is. Is the tiller in the center line of the boat? Yes. Then it must be fine. If the tiller was over one way or the other, then it wouldn't be fine. And look how much further forward he's sitting than Daisy was earlier on. And look how minimum this guy went on to win the Cadet Worlds. Good.
He has maximum sail in the wind.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. That could be. I mean, it just looks super, doesn't it? You know, that could go on the mantelpiece and your grandma would be really chuffed, wouldn't she? Yeah. Right. So that's me for tonight. So I've gone on a bit. We'll reinforce these tomorrow morning. We'll do exercises. One of the exercises, you know, I love doing is the tacking exercise. Yeah. Do you know how many? Do you know the RYA, the Royal Yachting Association, have got 16 reasons for tacking? And do you know how many of them are wrong? Why do we need to tack? Tacking is, by tacking, we're not moving, are we? Because the sails aren't setting. Tacking is a necessary evil only to be done when there's no alternative. Can I lay the windward mark by tacking? Yeah, great. Now's the time to tack. If I carried on, would I crash into this starboard boat? Yes. Yeah. Tack. If I carry on, will I hit the bank? Yes. You know, these are good reasons for tacking. Yes. But, pardon? And wind shifts, and we're going to do a lot about wind shifts. Yeah. How much in a Wayfarer do you think I'm being very rude here, how much do you think you lose every time you tack? Or do you lose every time you tack?
It depends on what kind of tacking you are doing.
Yeah. 3 boat lengths?
Is that a roller tacking?
Well, you do roll tacking, don't you? We've done roll tacking. Yeah. So even if you do the most sublime, wonderful tack, you are going to lose a certain amount of distance. And I reckon it's something like 2 boat lengths, 2 whole lengths. So every time you tack, there has got to be a better reason than, you know, if I carry on, I'm going to lose more than 2 boat lengths. Yeah, but quite often people think, and I've certainly been guilty of this, God, my arms ache. Oh, you know, oh, that was a header. I think I'll tack now. You know, no. Only tack when there is no alternative, because otherwise right. And when we do this exercise, I shall be blowing the whistle. How many tacks do you think we can get into? How many tacks do you think we'll get into a minute, Jasper? 6, 7, 8? I tell you what, we'll know when you're tacking enough, because when we see the sweat being bailed out.
When you're at number 5, you're just lying there still.
And that's when we do this exercise. When we do this exercise, folks, you will tack to oblivion. Tacking every 5 seconds or whatever it is, it just shows us that it's horrible. We only do it when we really, really need to do it. Because it's so awful. Good. Right.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Right.
And
Oh!